After losing 2 of our couples at the last commitment ceremony, we now have 2 more couples entering the experiment. So first of all, we have Gemma and Matt, and then we have Sophie and Jonathan. Starting with Gemma, she's 30 and she's a hair salon owner from Newton Abbot in Devon. She's also adopted. She mentioned that she was raised by her mother, and I believe there's 4 siblings. So she was raised by her mother, but it wasn't the greatest upbringing because her mother struggled. Her father didn't really play a role in her life. He was a military man and very much a womanizer. So, worthless is what I'm going to say. Absolutely worthless. So with that being said, she was adopted. She also has 2 boys, one 4, one 11. And she mentions about when she dates that if she knows she's not going to see them again, she will still sleep with them that same night. Yeah, that's what she said. That's exactly what she said. I was actually liking her to that point. I thought, oh, this is somebody that needs to find herself a partner. But then I started hearing all these sexual innuendos. And I thought, what is this? Who is she? I started looking at her sideways because something's not right here. That doesn't put her in the greatest light as far as I'm concerned. Doesn't set a great impression whatsoever. Anyway, moving on to Matt. He's 32 and he's a barbershop owner. What a coincidence. They're both into hair. And he's from York. He also did a small stint in the army, but because of medical reasons, he was discharged. And the medical reason being that he had scoliosis. Yeah, scoliosis, which is actually somebody with a curved spine, a curved or twisted spine. Yeah, that's interesting to know. But he still likes to keep fit, keeps himself in shape. We also saw that he was full of tattoos. And he also said that he likes a woman with tattoos. Fortunately enough, Gemma has tattoos. The only thing I do find disturbing is when people have tattoos on their face, which he does. It makes me look at the tattoos before I look at you, which is a great distraction. I can't even look into your eyes properly without seeing the tattoos first, which is not a great start. But nevertheless, he comes across as a great guy. Something about him, I like his personality, very down to earth, and he's also got a soft side where his mum is concerned. She raised him single-handedly, and we also found out that she's also got cancer. And this is the second time her getting cancer, and she's having chemo for that. But it doesn't look promising from the sounds of it. Yeah, they're not going to be able to get rid of it from what he was telling us. It doesn't sound too promising. Our next couple was Sophie and Jonathan. Now, Sophie is 26 and she's head of partnership for a tech company. She's very goal focused, very goal orientated, also very materialistic. As we saw, she's very much a foodie. She'll spend £150 on a meal. She'll squander her money virtually on designer labels, the whole 9 yards. You know where I'm going with this. She's from Manchester and looking for someone with their own business. That's what she would really like, somebody with their own business. So again, goal orientated like herself. And in the past, she mentions that men have been intimidated by her wealth, her paycheck. And that's why her relationships haven't really lasted because of her financial status. Moving on to Jonathan. He's 32 and a carpenter, and he's from Selby. He's one of 2 brothers, and he's also got 3 sisters, and he was raised by his mum single-handedly. He said he doesn't mind being a stay-at-home dad whilst his wife goes out to be the big earner of the family. So he doesn't mind that role, but he's looking for someone down to earth. He also mentions past girlfriends have also cheated on him. So I don't know whether it's his soft nature But he's always had that problem with girlfriends. They haven't lasted long. They've all cheated on him. Ah, dear. I'm looking at this pairing here and I'm thinking to myself, why have the matchmakers put these two together? They're from two different worlds. None of this makes any sense. This guy is not goal orientated, which is what she's looking for. She's very spoilt, materialistic, spends money like it's water. And he is a carpenter. I'm trying to work out the connection. As he said, he works to live. He doesn't live to work. While she lives to work. He's not at all goal orientated. Oh, this sounds messy already. I can't see where this is going. This sounds messy already. And where her father's concerned, he wants somebody wealthy to look after his daughter. That's what he said. So I don't know what the matchmakers were thinking, putting these two together. This looks like a whole mess. This is like Jess and PJ all over again. Here's the stripper. She wants somebody that's already established. Why put opposites together? Opposites don't always attract. And in this case, no, this is not going to work. I can tell you this now. So fast forward to the weddings. First of all, we'll look at Gemma and Matt. On their wedding day, we saw Gemma getting ready, looking very pretty. I love the red hair. I will say that on her. The red hair really suits her. And looking very curvaceous as well. Then we had Matt, looking very handsome in his suit. I think he had a 3-piece on. But before he went down the aisle, he did call his mum first because she wasn't able to make it on his big day because she's having chemotherapy. And so he did a video call with her just to see how she was and for her to wish him well on his big day and tell him how smart he looked as well. So them two had a little slight tearful emotional moment. I know the mum did, and he looked like he was welling up as well. But yeah, they had a nice little moment before he set off to his wedding venue. So when arriving at the church, we saw Matt roll up on his big motorbike. Huge thing. So he made a grand entrance. And coming down the aisle, he looked very nervous. You could see him breathing heavily, not sure who's going to come down that aisle, waiting in anticipation for his bride. Yeah. But we also noticed that with Gemma's side of the family or friends, they looked at him knowing that he's perfect for her. Yeah, she's going to like him. That's what they said. She's going to like him. We then saw Gemma walking down the stairs with her mother. And when she saw Matt, she was elated. That girl couldn't contain herself. She was giggling, smiling. They gave each other the biggest hug because she was just relieved, and so was he, that they both got what they ordered. They looked the part. They looked like a couple. From the exterior, this was a perfect match. If I remember rightly, she called him Lush. She said, "Oh, you're lush." The whole congregation laughed. This girl is a man-eater. I can already tell. This girl is a man-eater. The poor guy. He doesn't know what he's in for. The poor guy. These two found out very quickly that they had a lot in common. Well, they had one thing in common. No, they had two things in common. They had the tattoos, and then they found out that they both were hairdressers. So with that being said, fast forward to the ceremony. So they both read each other their vows. But in regards to Gemma, she read her vows but also presented him with a present. And the present was a skeleton key, which she had also tattooed on her arm. And he was quite taken aback by that. And the skeleton key is the key to her heart, as she said. So after saying their vows, these two were invited to give each other a kiss, which they did. And it wasn't a small kiss. These two kissed like they were in love, like they've known each other forever. Fast forward to them getting their pictures taken. This is a time where they ask each other questions. Gemma, we noticed, didn't waste time asking Matt any questions. The first thing she said to him was that she was adopted. And he was like, whoa, that's a lot to take in on a bridge, because they were standing on the bridge at the time. We then saw her hesitate before asking him whether he had any children. And he turned around and said no. But then he asked her whether she had any kids. And she said she had 2 boys. Now, his reaction to me was a little hesitant. He wasn't too sure how to take that information. And she turned around and said, is that okay with you? And he was like, yeah, that's fine. And then she asked him whether he wanted kids. And he said, yes, I do want kids of my own. Yeah. And with him saying that, she relaxed a little bit more. He relaxed a little bit more. And it looks like they both want the same thing. But I'm still a little weary about the kid thing. Yeah. I don't know whether he might feel it's too much responsibility to take on. But we'll see. Fast forward to the wedding reception. We saw the 2 of them walking hand in hand, make themselves comfortable at the top table. And then we saw Matt take off his jacket. Now, with Matt taking off his jacket, we saw Gemma start getting very flustered. She's looking at him as in to say, oh, very much a beefcake. Very much she wants to rip his clothes off. She had that look about her. And then we saw him unbutton his top collar. And again, she's making the same type of gestures, talking about virtually wetting herself. Yeah, she's dripping wet or something like that, she said. I can't remember. But very much sexual innuendos. That's what she was about. And then we saw Matt speaking to the camera afterwards saying that she needs to calm down with that because that was putting him off. So already we're starting to see the cracks already. Even though they look good together, they look good on paper. But as he starts to get to know her, he's seeing more of this sexual side of her, which he doesn't like. It seems to be constantly the forefront of her mind. And he's not feeling that. We also saw Gemma making sexual tongue gestures, all to do with sex again. And then when she was talking to the camera, we heard her say that she can't wait to sit on his face. Oh, God. Is this all she talks about? Oh, is this how she wants people to see her? As a sex object? Oh, this is too much. This is too much. We also saw her talk about them shagging constantly. And also that he needs to get used to the taste of fish. What the hell does that mean? What the hell does that mean? Well, you know what? I know what it means. But that's just disgusting. Come on. Where are you going with this? She also talked about being full of sexual references. And he turned around and said, well, it can get a bit tiring, to be honest. That's what he said. She's too full on, as he said. She needs to tone it down a bit. That's what he said. Fast forward to the hotel. Not much happened there. He turned around and said to her, sex will happen when it happens. And she said she signed up for sex on tap. Those were her thoughts. She didn't actually say that to him. And that's where it ended with those 2. So we're going to have to wait and see what happens on the honeymoon. But I've got my doubts. I really do. This is not looking good on the sexual tip. She's too fast. She's too forward. He doesn't want to rush into anything. And no man wants a woman that's full on in that way. Not really. They don't. They want to be the one to approach. But anyway, that's where I'm going to leave those 2. No, hang on a minute. I knew there was something else I needed to say. When I look at Matt, Whitney comes into my head. She wanted a hunk of a man. a brick house. And he has that image about him. The only thing that lets him down is his height. And possibly the tattoos as well. I'm going to keep an eye on Whitney and see whether he's her type. Yeah. But let's move on to our next couple. Sophie and Jonathan. We saw these two getting ready on the wedding morning, looking very nervous. Sophie is wondering whether this guy is going to have his own business, be goal orientated just like herself. Whilst Jonathan, as he said, he hasn't had a relationship for a while. He's feeling very nervous, very anxious, not sure what to do with himself, pacing the floor. Yeah, all of that. At one point, I did say to myself, is this guy going to get his suit on? Is he going to put his clothes on? Because he's just not with us right now. He's just staring out the window, looking out into space, not knowing, should I? Should I not? Should I? Should I not? He had that about him. Whilst with Sophie, she was dressed and ready to go. She looked beautiful in her white dress, lovely dress. Very much her. Her dad accompanied her in the Rolls Royce, pretty white Rolls Royce, looking the part. He was dressed in his checkered jacket with his cravat, looking very much like an aristocrat. Yeah, he had that look about him, one of wealth. In the meantime, the guests were wondering where Jonathan was because he still wasn't at the top of the aisle waiting for his bride. So everyone was getting nervous. When it came to the guests, I noticed with Jonathan's mother, she looked over at the bride's side of the family and was very much like, they look wealthy. They look like they're from a different class. She was very observant of that fact. So, not too sure how she looked at that in her mind, but she did take note. Eventually, Jonathan did turn up. Eventually. He walked down the aisle. He didn't look at anyone. He had his face straight, eyes straight, not making eye contact with anyone. He was that nervous. Eventually, we saw Sophie turn up, being walked down the aisle by her father. And when he turned round to see her and their eyes met, he was over the moon. He's thinking, wow, a natural beauty. And she thought the same of him. She found him very attractive. So that was already a good start with the two of them. She, however, did have the courtesy to say hello to his side of the family. Yeah. She was raised very well. I do, however, have to give him credit for complimenting her on her dress. So he did do that. And he was a little chatty as well with her when she was talking as well. So he wasn't as nervous as we thought. We then saw the celebrant start the ceremony and these two read their vows to each other. And then it was sealed with a lingering kiss on the lips. So with these two walking off down the aisle, we hear from Jonathan that he is looking forward to hearing more about her. And in regards to Sophie, she's looking forward to hearing more about what he does for work, whether he wants babies, but she sees a gentleness about him that she likes. So it's all looking very promising at this point. I think I may have spoke too soon, because what we see happen next was them getting their photographs taken. And as usual, this is where they ask the questions to each other. So we were finding out that, Sophie found out that he was a joiner. There was a slight hesitation in her hearing that, even though she was smiling through the fear. And then when he found out that she works for like a tech company or whatever she does, head of channel tech. Yeah, even I'm not a techie person myself. And he was talking very similar in regards to he knows nothing about that type of industry. That's really what he was saying. He knows nothing. He's not techie at all, he says. Not in the slightest. He doesn't do Instagram, which is what she started talking about next. And she's quite vain and materialistic. Yeah, she was talking on that tip. She also asked where he was from, and he said he was from Selby. And she asked, where's that? And he said it's near York, 14 miles outside of York, a small market town. And she lives in central Manchester, very much in the hustle and bustle of city life. Again, the red flags, I don't know. But it could work because I'm from a market town. But I've been living in London over 30 years. So it can work if you really want it to. But there's still some red flags. The industry she works in, the life she leads, the wealth that she's born into, all of that is a total opposite to him. So, I have my questions. Fast forward to the wedding reception. We saw these two come in hand, looking very comfortable with each other. And then you heard, it was the bride's father, so Sophie's father, talking about where Jonathan was from. He can't be used to Sophie's class of woman living up there. And he may feel intimidated by her. That's virtually what he was trying to say. And the more he talks, the more snobbish he sounds. So, I really don't know how this is going to work. He's not going to meet the dad's expectations. But anyway, the next thing we saw was the bride and groom talking. And the conversation came to Sophie asking Jonathan, what's your favourite food? He turns around and says Haribo with a big grin on his face. She took it as in to say, this isn't good. She didn't get the joke. It didn't land well. Let's put it that way. And then she asked him whether he's ever had deep fried balls. Oh, hang on. What they call? Arancinis? Arancini? I've never heard of them. I don't even know what they are. And for him to turn around and said he's never heard of them himself, yeah. I understand you. Jonathan, I understand you. We can't know everything. And I've never heard of arancinis. I'm sorry. And I'm not saying I'm ignorant when it comes to food. I'm very much open to trying new things, but I've never heard of arancini. Never heard of it. And then the conversation went on to drink. And he turned around and said he doesn't really drink. He's probably got drunk 3 times in the whole year. Yeah. I understand where he's coming from. I'm not a big drinker myself. But hearing from her, she's very much a socialite. She likes to wine and dine, try new foods, try new drinks. She's very much that person. So her palate is very wide, whilst his is very minimal. When talking to the camera, she classed herself as very much a foodie, and him as not. But she does fancy him, as she said. And then when he was talking to the camera, he turned around and said he sees her as more of a Marks and Spencer's Waitrose girl, whilst he's more of a Morrison's. They then started talking about their perspective of life. And she was, as we all know, very goal orientated, whilst he's very much like, he wants a simple life. He sees life as very much, as long as he makes enough money to be able to socialise and live life, that's all he needs. He doesn't have the big dreams like she does. Ah, dear. I don't know about these two. I'm beginning to worry even more now. Can it work? Can they really make it work? But we're going to have to wait and see. We're going to have to see how they relate on the honeymoon, whether anything improves. So this is where I'm going to leave it for now. If you like what you heard, please like, comment and subscribe. Till next time.